Thank you for joining us this afternoon. My name's Andy Tilley. I am a specialist tutor here at the Training Initiative, and we're very lucky this afternoon. We're joined on our vocational opportunities for school leavers and webinar by a very illustrious panel. We have Chris Morris from IAE. We have Rachel Roden from Water Plus. We've got Nihal Dhillon from JCB. Thanks for joining us, Nihal. We've got Carrie Abbott from the Stoke and Staffordshire Careers Hub. Thank you for joining us, Carrie. And hopefully at some point, Meryl Finney from Newcastle and Staffordshire colleges will be joining us too. Thank you to all the good people who are joining us online as the audience. Thank you for signing in and joining us. Please feel free as the discussion moves forward to fire your questions away in the chat box. They will be monitored and we will get to those in due course as we get towards the end of the discussion. We only have an hour though, and we've got a lot of material to go through. Again, thanks to our panel for joining us, Chris, Nihal, Rachel, Carrie. Hopefully Meryl will be joining us in due course. My name's Andy. I'm a specialist tutor here at the Training Initiative, and it's my job to facilitate the discussion. So without further ado, I think what might be nice is if we dive straight in, and Louis is going to share with us, Louis, my IT colleague, a video about T-levels, what they are and what their value is. Thanks, Louis.
So a T-level is a brand new technical qualification that's meant to give students the knowledge, skills and behaviour to go into skilled employment. It's a holistic qualification, so rather than students sitting written examinations, they have to do practical examinations, and they're examined on things like communication skills, person-centred planning. They have to present to an audience, they have to reflect on their practice. So it's a much more holistic qualification in terms of what the students are expected to do under exam conditions and then on placement. And the other thing that a T-level is good for is the placement experience. So where other students might get no placement experience or limited placement experience, there is a large chunk of the time spent on placement for a T-level.
So a T-level is a newer type of course that's now being offered, which has a greater focus on work experience and real-world industry experience compared to sort of other courses such as BTECs. So this course comprises of 20% work placement, which is 1 day a week, and that greater level of work experience just allows for a more sort of realistic education in the specified industry.
A T-level is a more high academic achievable student. Comes into your workspace. They are high achievers, they have a high strand of work ethic, and they're the kind of people that you can actually put a lot more robust work in front of and actually get some great achievements from.
Well, a T-level is effectively, in my opinion, a reversed apprenticeship, insofar as normally an apprenticeship, as and when you start one of those, is very much a case of the majority of the time you'll spend at work, and then after you'll go to college. This one is actually the reverse of that, whereby you'll spend the majority of your time in college effectively understanding all the academic principles that you need to apply in business, and then from that you then spend 1 day a week on a work placement for approximately 350 hours over a 2-year period.
The split between classroom and workplace is very diverse in a way from the range of the work experience and the different classroom aspects. Like I do 3 different things in my classroom, 2 math sectors and then a health, safety, business sector. So it's always very different.
T-levels are 80% in college, studying several different types of assessment, and it's all assessed externally, with roughly 20% of the time on placement. So that equates to a minimum of 315 hours over the 2 years that the T-level runs for, and that placement can be in a range of different digital backgrounds. The assessment is all done externally, so there's 2 core exams, and then in the first year we have what we call an employer set project. That's done over around 14 hours. The second year is what we call the occupational specialism, and that's done over a much longer period, but it's far more like a project than an assessment just done on the one-off. So it really does give students a chance to show off their skills.
So it can depend on the placement that you've got. For some people in my class, it's a case of doing the whole week there every 3 months. But in my case, and for most of the placements, it's 1 day a week. In my case, Fridays. Well, obviously we spend a whole day at the workplace and the other 4 days in college.
My name is Sufyan Hansrock and I'm studying the T-Level Engineering and Manufacturing at NSCG. The reason I chose to study a T-Level is because it has the opportunity to go to a workplace, where when I wanted to do the BTEC, it didn't have that opportunity. So I thought it'd be a great chance to go into the working world, see what it's like, instead of being in the classroom the majority of the time.
So my name's Julie Twigg and I'm the UK Learning and Development Manager. So we chose to get involved in offering a T-level placement because we, an ageing workforce here at Port Merriott, we thought it was an ideal opportunity to be able to offer those experiences to young people out there, with a view to obviously real life work experience in real life working environment. So working with NSCG, we were able to develop obviously the programme actually as well. So we went to a couple of open days with the college to be able to see what the T-levels were on offer and how they could obviously fit within our business. And we chose obviously the engineering one fitted quite well with obviously what we can offer here for that work experience. So the skills that the learners are bringing to the team is their obviously personalities, their enthusiasm to learn, and are completely dynamic, because like I say, we are an ageing workforce, and to have people obviously with new ideas, real current skills that they're obviously learning obviously in college, and being able to bring that to the workplace.
Mostly I've learned hard skills like how to use the equipment, how everything works in the factory. So we come here at Port Merriott at 9 o'clock. We get dressed up in our PPE, and then we go down to the workshop with Stan and Steve, which are the morning shifts, and then we see if there's anything to do with it. And then afternoon shifts we are with Luke and Jordan, and then we do anything if there's any problems in the factory.
So our current mentors have been able to develop their mentoring skills by obviously working closely with the two young men we've got. They've obviously grown in there, being able to sort of coach and mentor the people. So again, it's been really beneficial for all.
The support I receive from the team members is that improvement in skills, experience in what they do, and the knowledge as well.
So the career opportunities we have for T-level students, so when they've obviously finished that qualification, we can have those conversations whether there's a full-time employment opportunity or we welcome the opportunity to look at maybe an apprenticeship route as well.
My long-term goals are, I think, is to go to uni and specialise in electrical engineering.
We've benefited quite a lot from having obviously young energy come into the business. Obviously people learning obviously the real life skills obviously in the college environment and being able to bring them into the work, into the employment. Our advice to other maybe people thinking about offering a T-level student is absolutely, go for it. This is again a real opportunity to be able to showcase obviously as a business what we offer, and also give people an opportunity to see real life skills and obviously be part of the real life workforce.
My advice to anyone studying T-level is go for it, because I actually chose it because I had the opportunity to do a work placement compared to the BTEC. So yeah.
At the moment we're looking at potential opportunities or placements within hospitals, within estate agents, within administration roles, within local councils, within state agents and so on. So motorsport companies too. So effectively there's a whole range of things, and it's very difficult to compartmentalise what those will be. There's a very, very wide range that can pretty much accommodate what anybody wants.
So my existing current T-level students at this present moment, we are looking to take on more. So we've got Archie and Justin. They both come in on a Friday, all day. We set them to task. When we actually first brought them into the business, we were just going to give them starting education, things about programming and all that lot. 3 weeks of having them, we then decided actually they are really, really good. We've been working with Newcastle Stafford College Group, NSCG, for a good long while now, and we've actually been feeding back a lot of what they've been learning, and they are now actually working with us on our own software product. They are that good, and I definitely advocate to anybody who's seriously thinking about going T-levels, do it. You will not be disappointed.
I think one thing to be quite clear about is that T-Levels are not going to close off any educational options that you may have when you actually leave or complete the qualification itself. So you've still got the opportunities for universities, you've got the opportunities for graduate apprenticeships, higher apprenticeships, and also actually going into the workplace as well. Because one of the benefits with T-Levels are that you have got the opportunity not only to demonstrate your academic achievement, which you will do by passing the course, but also by actually demonstrating that you can work within a work environment over a sustained period of time, which a lot of your peers of that age will not have had that opportunity to do. So there's a considerable range of things such as that. Certainly for things like graduate apprenticeships, I think that is a really good opportunity to use, because they are an extremely good pathway to further into a higher education. But at the same time, you are proved that you can do the job and that you can cut the mustard in the job that you've already done.
I do plan to go to university, hopefully getting a master's and then going on to work.
So there's probably about 3 routes for someone who's finished the T-level. The first one is to say it's a vocational qualification, so you can go straight into work. For health, that work is more likely to be as a healthcare assistant, either in a care home or a hospice, or in a hospital setting like A&E or a specific ward, but you'd be a healthcare assistant. A lot of our T-level learners are doing the qualification to get professional registration, and the ways they can do that are traditional university route. So we will support our students in the second year through UCAS to get onto a place at university to get an adult nursing or midwifery, for example. They could also do an apprenticeship, so a higher vocational apprenticeship, which then might lead to a degree apprenticeship. So they could still stay in a practical apprenticeship route to get the qualification while they work, or traditional university route if they want professional registration.
Great, thank you, Louis. Thanks for sharing that video with us, and welcome to everybody who's joined the audience intermittently over the last few minutes. Welcome, good afternoon to you all, and a special welcome to Meryl from the Newcastle and Stafford Colleges group, who's one of our expert panelists. We look forward to hearing from Meryl later in the afternoon. Welcome to you all. Just a short video there that lays out some of the key aspects of what a technical T-level is, and there are some really important points that were made there from the young people, people in the workplace, and the testimony also of people, placement providers, and people who supported those young people in their educational environments. I think probably the key one being that by setting out on a T-level program, it doesn't close options to you, it doesn't close doors, it keeps them open for you. I think now, if you're ready, Louis, we might also, without further ado, look at a short video about apprenticeships, which will lay out some similarities, but also some very important distinctions between the T-levels and the apprenticeships on the other hand. So, Louis, if you're ready, if you would be so kind enough to run that presentation, please. Thank you.
An apprenticeship is a paid job with 20% of your working hours in a classroom-based environment such as college, could be university, could be sixth form, where you'll gain experience hands on the job and also learning about it in the classroom environments.
Hi, my name is Dhillon and I'm an engineering degree apprentice at JCB. In my opinion, an apprenticeship is like a trampoline that will launch you into your career, no matter what it is that you're doing or how long your apprenticeship is. I think that spending the time that you're spending, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, you'll be still getting your educational qualifications, but at the same time, you're actually getting to earn money, and not only that, but getting the work experience, crucially, in the industry that you're going to be part of, working alongside some fantastic people who are there to help you and support you and actually make your transition into the industry you want to go into and into your full-time role a lot easier.
So the benefits of apprenticeships to IE helps to ensure that it fulfills our skills gap due to an ageing population, really, an ageing workforce which we have in the business. It also provides apprentices with hands-on experience, and the benefits are they get paid for doing the role, which is great. And also they gain an industry recognised qualification. Employing apprentices helps to ensure the business is developing and bringing in new talent who have a different mindset compared to some of the guys that we have who've been here for a long time, and they're especially good with emerging technology and helping to take the business forward.
So on Mondays and Tuesdays, I'll come into the office and I'll be working a full day. Wednesday is my 20% classroom-based environment, so I'll go to Newcastle College for the day. Thursday, I'm back into the office again for a full day. And Friday, I usually take my 1 day working from home. Usually, I finish my college stuff in the evenings after work later on, and if not, I do have the weekends to finish that as well.
Hi, I'm Laura and I am an apprenticeship tutor. I've also got experience from the opposite side, as I was an apprentice myself on the level 4 assessor coach. I have a lot of interaction with my apprentices on a weekly basis. We obviously have an hour-and-a-half sessions every fortnight for teaching and learning, and then we have constant interaction weekly through learner journal submissions, submitting of assessments and various tasks, and obviously I set those tasks. And we also interact obviously for those progress reviews and scorecard opportunities as well. So constant communication.
Well, I'm doing the AAT Level 3 Accountancy Diploma, and I'm doing that at Newcastle College. I'd like to become a fully qualified accountant when I'm older, and the best way to do that, especially for me at the moment, is for an apprenticeship, because I get the support both financially and with the company.
I knew 100% that it was the right thing for me. I get to do my degree and I get to be in no student debt, and I'm working with some of the most fantastic engineers, genuinely on some of the most brilliant, interesting projects that I would never have got to be part of had I just been at university. So the reason that I chose an engineering degree apprenticeship is because I knew I wanted to do engineering, and I knew I wanted to get my engineering degree, but I didn't think university was the right path for me. I've always been more hands-on and more sort of mechanically minded.
As soon as I left school, I was straight into a job in a warehouse in the summer. Time to time I perform and help out with accounting. That could be invoices, supply payments, reconciling bank statements, and I enjoyed it. So when it comes to picking my college course, I thought I'll continue with accounting because I did enjoy it.
So at IE, further career pathways are available to apprentices who do really well within the business, and some of those apprenticeships from a level 2 apprenticeship could advance onto a level 3 development programme on completion of the apprenticeship. So it's all about progressing those guys on who work hard, and there is a need in the business for that role as well. Past apprentices have been promoted into management positions within our company, with 2 ex-apprentices being promoted to team leaders on completion of their apprenticeships, which is really positive, and it shows that other candidates and apprentices within the business have got those opportunities if they need to and they work hard for it. Likewise, a level 3 apprenticeship can develop into a level 6 development programme as well. And this is if there's a need in the business as well. So it might seem a bit of a jump from level 3 to level 6, but usually with a level 6 you start at level 4, then you progress to level 5 and level 6, but you will get a degree at the end of that.
I'd like to finish my AAT level 3 and level 4. I would also like to continue in a higher qualification such as SEMA and develop my knowledge even further, just get higher qualified.
So I've actually progressed into delivering apprenticeships since I completed my own apprenticeship, and I've also progressed within assessing. So I assess obviously the apprentices that I deliver to and that I am helping through their standard, but I also assess on a variety of other programmes of varying levels as well.
Okay, thank you, Louis, for those 2 presentations. For those of you in the audience, hopefully that gives a little bit of a base, a foundation as to the similarities and differences between T-levels and apprenticeships. But don't worry, we'll come back to those and we'll recap those similarities and differences in a really digestible form later in the discussion. But what I'm really aware of is that we've got a wonderful panel with us, and I really do want to make the most of our time with them. I know, Rachel, you're on a schedule, so if I might come to you first. We saw some testimony there from young people on an apprenticeship programme and those who are facilitating and providing places for them. But I wonder if you could take us through, please, at Water Plus. We heard from Josh, one of your learners there. What what sort of qualities, what sort of skills and knowledges and behaviours are you looking for from an apprenticeship candidate? I wonder if you could just kind of lay those out for us.
Yeah, so the apprenticeships that we've currently got in our finance team, which Josh and Rob, who were on the video, are part on, are the level 3 AAT apprenticeships at Newcastle College. When it comes to recruitment for these roles, we approach it in no different way than we would usually with regards to recruitment. So, definitely got to consider that they're coming in an entry level. So that's something that we need to consider as part of the job spec and role profile. But in terms of how we would recruit them, we wouldn't be looking for anything different. We want somebody who's going to fit well into the business, that's going to work hard, can demonstrate that they've got the knowledge, skills and behaviours that we'd be looking for as part of that role at the entry level. And we also, want to make sure that they're dedicated to the apprenticeship. So we will be discussing with them the apprenticeship and also the conditions that we set out in the apprenticeship agreement that we would have in place with them as well. I think it's really important as well to be kind of desirable as a company who young people just leaving college or leaving school would like to come and work for. One of the reasons I think that a lot of people take the apprenticeship route is the fact that they are earning whilst they're learning, and that's like a really great attribute towards kind of apprenticeships and how they work. So we make sure that we enter them on quite a good wage and that we have really clear progression points for pay as well. So with that in hand and the conditions set out in the apprenticeship, we're going to have quite a dedicated person joining our team. I also think it's important that we have a clear pathway so that we're able to kind of articulate that at the start of their journey to say, if you're going to do the level 3, then you can progress to the level 4 or maybe even then the level 7 or go more down like the professional study route to do SEMA or something. So I think for us, we're looking for somebody no different than we would be if we were recruiting for a normal role.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And if I could push it a little bit further, Rachel, Water Plus, obviously a huge presence in your sector. Does that give you an advantage in terms of there are different aspects within the business that perhaps an apprentice might be able to experience on their pathway or their journey with you?
So it's a bit of a mixed bag, really. So in our finance team, one of the things that we do is we make sure that every 6 months our finance apprentices are rotating in the different teams within finance, because it's really important that they do have exposure to the different roles that you might do within a finance team. In other areas of our business, in our cybersecurity team and also our digital space as well, we also have some apprentices doing level 6, and we feel that they have actually brought quite a bit to the table from what they're learning on their apprenticeship. So when we're talking about robotics and AI and bringing some of that in and really looking at kind of that cyberspace and looking at kind of some of the risks associated with us as a business that holds customer data and financial data. So we're seeing like the really kind of big benefits of having apprentices working in the business, because they're learning things that I think it said on the video that our kind of more mature workforce don't know because they've not had that exposure to it. So that's been really good that we're bringing that into the business now from people who are starting off their careers at quite younger and bringing it in from an apprenticeship point of view.
Great. It sounds like there's a really nice balance there for your people too, between a specialism, but also that they're seeing the big picture and they're being exposed to the big picture within the business as well. Great.
Yeah,
Thank you for that.
No problem.
Chris Morris of IAE, I wonder if I could bring you in here, because I know from previous discussions it's an area of interest of yours of how candidates present when they come and meet people in the commercial world. Do you have any thoughts on that? What sort of knowledge, skills and behaviour would you be looking for if you met a young person for the first time and they were interested in an apprenticeship programme with you?
So I think for us, one of the things that we do a lot of school engagement, and I've been in the company probably just over a year now, I would say. Previously I was at IE and I used to manage Nihal when he was on his apprenticeship programme. But one thing that we've done is a lot of school engagement, mainly because as a company we've struggled to attract apprentices to the business. And the main reason for that is because nobody knows who we are, so i.e. we're industrial agricultural engineers, so we manufacture everything that you see on a farm, apart from the JCBs, which Nihal makes as such. But the school engagement was key for us, because what we did is we went out to the school, we presented about who the company is, the type of apprenticeships we have on offer, but also what the type of apprenticeships there are in the whole of the UK, what sort of skills, knowledge, skills and behaviours that you need to be an apprentice. And part of that as well is informing the students about, we do some CV writing, we'll do some mock interviews as well, getting them geared up for coming in for an apprenticeship as such. So one of the things that we do, what we want to do is when they come in is, we look at who they are. So we'll go through loads of CVs, and this is what their predicted grades are, and we'll look at that. And so we always need English and maths as the key one. So we need to have English and maths as the key one for the government requirements. So we'll get them in, we'll hold an interview with them. And it's all about looking at, eye contact, posture, that type of stuff, getting to know the guy, the apprentice, the individual. And trying to make them relaxed as well, if you know what I mean. So we want to make sure they're more as relaxed as possible when we're doing the interview as well. But making sure that they go away, is a learning experience for them as well. So if they were successful, for instance, then at least they're geared up for going for an apprenticeship somewhere else. However, some of the good positive news that we've had, we've engaged with the local school and we just took on 6 of their apprentices. In our first cohort of 11 apprentices going in our new apprenticeship development centre, which is open this month, which is good. So on that, we're delivering everything that the college would deliver, but it's all tailored to our needs as a business. So that's a positive thing, I would say. Whereas before, we've probably had one student from the local school, that's come to us. And the reason for that is because all the students on the school don't know who we are and what we do. And another thing that we've done recently as well, especially for this year, is invited schools in for tours as well and work experience. So we'd always say that work experience is a good thing, especially for all schools. When they get to year 10, I'd always encourage schools to try and get their students in to do work experience with various companies, if you know what I mean, because then they have an interaction, they look into the business. They might want to do engineering, but then they might come into a business and not like engineering. So it gives them that introduction and think, I'll have a go at it. It's a bit of a try before they buy as well. And also for us, if they come to us, it's a bit of a try before you buy with us as well. So they'll come to us, they'll do a week work experience for us. And if they do really well, then we can invite them in for a bit of an interview and then they got the job. And that's what happened recently with a couple of the guys from the local school as well.
Chris, that's fantastic, but you've stolen my thunder because I was going to go on and ask you. And as a result of that, the interaction with the young people and their tutors and teachers, what were the positive aspects and impacts of that? But you've articulated that really, really, really well. That's wonderful. That sounds great work. I'm thinking, sorry, please.
Yeah, sorry. Another thing that we put as well is we'll bring the school in for a tour of the facility as well, probably during year 9. So we encourage that as well. So if we can do that with loads of other local organisations, that's a pretty good thing to do. But what we do here is we do a tour of the facility for year 9 students, and also a speed networking session with our apprentices. So they'll have 5 minutes with each of our apprentices from one part of the business, which could be engineering, manufacturing, business, finance, sales, wherever. And then they'll rotate round every 5 minutes, and we'll have the questions already laid out, question papers, and they just ask the apprentice what they like about their job, why they chose IE, what GCSEs do they need to take to be a procurement advisor or an IT apprentice or whatever. And then they go away from us with all that information. So when they're choosing their GCSEs, then that helps as well, I would say. So that's a positive thing.
I can see the contact inbox for IAE on the website filling up with inquiries from tutors and teachers saying we want to work with that guy. That sounds great work. Thanks, Chris. And I suppose that sounds like a great point to bring in our colleagues from Stoke and Staffordshire Careers Hub, because Chris has articulated really well there the efforts that the business is making to try and create some common ground between business and educational settings. So I wonder if you could just go to Abby, please, and talk about Carrie, and talk about perhaps the efforts that are coming from the other side of the desk, as it were, from the Careers Hub side. What efforts are going on to kind of make the most of those really enthusiastic engagement from people like Chris? Sorry, Carrie.
So obviously we sort of commissioned this piece of work to find out initially what sort of the teachers and sort of parents know around sort of apprenticeships and T-levels to try and address that gap and need, and working with a number of businesses like AIE, and we've got a cornerstone employer group looking at sort of how they can support schools more with the development of that progressive route from year 7 right through to sort of year 11, 13, and those transition points, and sort of building in with our employer competency framework, which will look at really growing in sort of the knowledge, skills and behaviours of students. So when it gets to that point where they are transitioning, that's the one. Fantastic there, Andrew, thank you. But when they have that and the students are then able to articulate, so when they go to their interviews with the colleges or their apprenticeships or their T-levels, that they can articulate sort of some with real life examples what they've done and what they've gained. And hopefully, I'd say it's what those businesses are wanting to help them progress, not only just get the job, keep the job, but progress in the workplace, where people have mentioned there, those apprentices are now becoming managers, so we can start building the leaders of the future as well as the workforce.
I mean, from Chris's testimony, you could hear the enthusiasm from somebody from the commercial world. But what kind of feedback are you getting from students and tutors as that initiative progresses?
So we don't work with the students direct ourselves as our team. We'll be working with a number of the careers leaders that are online, and we've been doing a number of projects where we're looking at sort of really measuring that impact that where we can see these students. And I say it's changing the way careers is developed, so it becomes sort of integral into sort of the whole school system, and not sort of that one thing that we do just in case we need to fill some time. It's by being that integral sort of cog within the school system.
And I suppose this is an opportune moment just to remind those members of our colleagues who are in the audience, perhaps from teaching settings or colleges, schools, fully encourage you to engage with Stoke and Staffordshire Careers Hub. They do great work. Share your ideas, collaborate with the schools and settings around you. Stoke and Staffordshire Careers Hub provide a service where they'll liaise with you and they'll help to identify local employers who will come and work alongside you. Chris is great testimony to the power of collaboration. We can feel the enthusiasm coming through the screen there. So I would encourage you to if you're not already in touch with the Stoke and Staffordshire Careers Hub, to do that. They're great people and they do some great work. So, well, it's the truth, isn't it? If I might now welcome to the discussion our friend Nihal. We've heard from people in the commercial world and people from the educational sector, and definitely Meryl, we're definitely going to come and hear from you as well. But Nihal, I spoke to you earlier this afternoon, and I've used the word enthusiasm, and you have a great story to tell about the value that you feel that apprenticeship programme at JCB out at Roaster and UTOX has given to you. Would you care to share some of that with us, please?
100%. I mean, I like I said, I started out in JCB 4 years ago now. I'm at the end of my scheme, so I am in the process of actually coming off my apprenticeship. And when I started 4 years ago, we're working for Chris. Actually, Chris was my scheme leader on this call when he used to work here. I don't think even I thought that there'd be this many exciting things to work on, like the hydrogen stuff that we've been working on. Making the first ever. When we hit production with that next year, it'll be the first ever mass production hydrogen engine designed and built here. I mean, that's like a once in a generation type of change, and to be involved in that right from the very, very early days was absolutely amazing. And that's not something that we could have done. I could have done going to uni. I did apply for uni because our school, we did it. Everyone in sixth form did it, so I joined straight from sixth form. But I turned them down to come here, and I don't regret it at all. I think it's been amazing. Yeah, I can definitely. It is obviously hard work because you have to do a job plus a degree at the same time, but and it's not any longer. It's a 4-year course, so it's the same length as doing a bachelor's with a sandwich year. Um, but it's definitely worth it because no, you don't get these type of opportunities even in a sandwich year, in a placement year.
So from what you're saying, what you said then, how it kind of debunks that idea that, well, if I want to go to university, that's a total, or I'd like a degree, that's my ambition. Then it's a purely academic route. What you said is that actually an apprenticeship keeps the door open to that for you, as it has for you.
Oh yeah, I mean a degree was my ambition as well, and I've got that. I graduated in May, so and that was just that's
Congratulations.
still a thank you very much. That's still a normal degree with at a proper university. So there's from a qualification point of view, there's nothing different with doing a degree apprenticeship. It's just that I'm coming out of it with 4 years of all this amazing work, working in defence, working in hydrogen, working on all these amazing things, and that's something that a student won't have, a normal student.
So if there's one kind of quick nugget of wisdom that you've picked up over your time with JCB out there at Roaster, and members of our audience will be speaking to their learners and their students over the coming weeks. If somebody's kind of looking at apprenticeship and thinking, no, but there is, people will expect me to go and get a degree, and can we emphasise that that door is still open to them, that ambition is still realisable with the route that you've taken?
100%. Of course it is. And the other advantage, I think we touched on it earlier, was you can move around the company as well. So you can, that's one advantage is encompassed in that degree, and you're still getting the qualifications. It doesn't shut the door. A lot of people here do go on to do postgraduate stuff, part-time masters, and some people are doing PhDs. So it still doesn't, and that's funded by work. So it still doesn't close the door if you want to do that. A lot of people do an engineering degree, and then a couple of years later we'll do a part-time business degree. That's quite common as well. So it definitely doesn't shut the door. And while you're on scheme, you get the chance to move around. So I've worked in sales. You can work in any engineering division you want to. You can, and Chris will back this up as well. You can basically work anywhere if you ask, and you've been putting a good performance. Then you can basically, and you can get the experience, not just the experience, but also the network within the company that you build is unbelievable. I mean, you basically know somebody in every department by the time you're done, and you can almost, it's not just one guaranteed job, you've almost got like 6 guaranteed jobs because there's so many people that'll hire you at the end.
Nihal, thank you so much. What you said really chimes with what Rachel said, where the people on her apprenticeship schemes at Water Plus they had that specialism, but they were also given the big picture, that holistic view of the way the business was going and operated, and their vision for the future. Thanks so much for that. I'm going to come back to you later in the discussion if I can, but thank you so much for joining us. Thank you.
No worries.
It's great to hear different voices, and the way you speak about apprenticeships is fantastic. Thank you so much for that. But I'd really like to talking about different voices, I'd really like to bring in Meryl now. Thanks for joining us, Meryl. Now you're with Newcastle and Stafford Colleges Group.
Yes.
And I've listened to you speak about T-levels specifically, and you speak very eloquently and passionately about that. So they're a relatively new type of qualification, I guess, in education training provision terms, starting in September 2020. There are still some schools and colleges pondering, how do we fit that? How do we make that a component of our offering, of our delivery? But I know that you've got really, even over that short period, those 2 or 3 years, really substantial experience of designing and delivering these programs across many subject areas. I wonder if you might be able to lay out for our audience what you feel the advantage of a T-level might be for somebody who's considering their next steps, perhaps after GCSEs, at that point in their education.
Okay, yeah, no problem. So
Thank you.
From a T-level point of view, a student has the option of continuing coming to college. They do 80% with us on the college, either at Stafford site or Newcastle site, and then they do 20% on the job with an employer. So they do get the best of both worlds. It is unpaid work experience, but they still get the work experience required to pass the T-level. So a T-level is 2 years. I think from a student point of view, if a learner is academic and they want that A-level route, and the grade 5s are our entry requirements for T-levels, it gives them the option of still having that level of academia, but also picking up a local work placement where they can gain the skills that are required for their next step. And it opens opportunities for progression, not only just to university, but higher technical qualifications, further apprenticeships. So it's a nice way to look at a different way to further their career. Feedback from employers for the T-levels that we currently run has been fantastic, and a lot of them see that those students can stay on at that business and then they can develop then and they can be a part of the workforce. So it's a nice route into apprenticeships if a student's not quite ready for full-time into a work placement. It gives them the best of both worlds, but also the level a T-level is equivalent to 3 A-levels, so it still gives them the opportunity to go on to university. Currently this year, obviously, we've gone through our induction enrolment process. We're on about 350 T-levels across both sites, so we've really ramped it up from last year, bringing on a lot more pathways. So it is popular, it is gaining momentum. It's still quite new. Still quite new to parents, to students, to employers, but there's definitely leveraging the importance of it for a choice for students, and ultimately it is the students' choice of what they want to do and how they want to learn.
It's really interesting to hear you say that. The emphasis you placed on that right at the end there on how a student would like to learn and broadening their options. Do you still encounter that misconception that if a student decides to take the T-level route, well, that's not quite as valuable as an A-level route, as a purely academic route? And is there something you'd like to say about that?
Yes, I would say that's definitely something parents think. And when students have come up, sons or daughters have come home and said, "Oh, I'd like to do a T-level," and their academic profile are 7s and 8s, parents do want them to do A-levels. We had parents' evening last night, and this was exactly the same conversation with a parent, and she said, "I actually feel that this is the right route now because it has got that mix. It has got the mix of that level of academic profiling that they will still be achieving, but they've got the work experience." It is a full-time course, so obviously some college courses could be 14 to 16 hours. These students are in 4 days a week, solid, with a day off for their placement. So the makeup of a T-level is different. It's heavy going, but the outcome for a learner is they've got really good progression opportunities after the 2 years.
And in what position does that put the T-level learner at the end of that 2 years, as opposed to, or when they're alongside somebody who followed a purely academic 2-year of A-level route? If both want to go to university, is there a disadvantage? Is there an advantage, or are they both equivalent?
Yeah, they're both. I mean, I'd never say anything's a disadvantage. It's about the right route for that learner. For example, our health students have all got placements in the local hospital. From that, they've got about 9 weeks of rotation around the different departments, divisions in the hospital. They then want to go on to be adult nurses. When they have that conversation when they're applying to university, they've got much more practical experience to talk about than somebody who has done a straight A-level route. So those are the advantages. I think if a student's not quite sure if they do want to go to university, coming through a T-level and working with an employer from the age of 16 will give them another opportunity to maybe look at staying on with the work placement and actually being employed and taking a higher technical qual, which obviously does reduce any student debt. So it's just different options, and I think it's really important that students have those options. They have the right initial advice and guidance from colleges, and it's about us signposting students to their choice of learning.
You've spoken to us there. Thank you very much about the environment for a T-level learner. But what feedback do you get from people who facilitate the placement? I'm specifically thinking about Cyberkill, with whom I think you've created a great relationship.
Yeah.
Could you perhaps lay out for our audience how some of your learners, their experience at Cyberkill? If you don't know Cyberkill, it's a software, web development, web design company based in Stoke-on-Trent. So and Meryl has a couple at least learners who've been placed there. Could you describe to us how their experience has been there and what Cyberkiln's feedback's been?
Yeah, so the two students are on a digital pathway. So digital is quite an interesting route. It's quite, tailored to what students want to go into. So when we got them on programme last year, obviously we wanted to get them out on placement. I do like to get them out as soon as we can to give them that opportunity of what it's like in the world of work. Chris came along and only really wanted one student. He interviewed about 6 or 7, and then in the end he took 2. He just couldn't believe how proactive these learners were, engaged they were with digital concepts. So we took 2 students on. They've both been there for the full year. They've both done extra hours in the holidays because the students wanted to. They're now working on actual paid work for Chris. I know he will take one on for an apprenticeship after the 2 years. From that, he's also taking on a business student from September. And he, for him, I think he really believes that to get them young and to showcase the technical ability that these students have, and they just need that nurturing, they need that guidance that employers can give alongside the theory side that is learned from the teaching staff. It's a really, really good mix.
I know that Chris at Cyberkiln, he's been really thrilled with the learners there, hasn't he, in their progress. And if I could go to Chris at IAE, would you echo those sentiments? I know we're talking about apprenticeship there, the calibre of the young people you've been working with. Could you express what are your experiences there, Chris?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the calibre of young people we've got, especially at IAE, are fantastic, to be fair. And sometimes you find is it going to be quite challenging when you've got 6, 7 students coming from the local school who all know each other, and you put them back into a sort of classroom environment. However, the way we've managed it is we give an introduction to the business for the first 4 weeks before they go into the development centre. But they've all been brilliant, I've got to admit. And I delivered a health and safety introduction to health and safety workshop yesterday for 4 hours to them all. And it's probably the most boring subject on the planet, but I've got them all totally engaged, and nobody fell asleep, which is great, and they were totally engaged. So no credit to them, I have to say, and they've all been brilliant, and hopefully they'll carry on being good, which I'm sure they will. But they're learning new skills, which is great. So they're in our work development centre now, learning all hand skills, learning machining, learning welding and assembly, all in one controlled environments before they go onto the shop floor. So yeah, they're doing really well. Great characters they are.
Wonderful. I'm outraged that you've referred to health and safety as potentially boring subject, because I deliver quite a lot of that, and I think it's fantastic.
Well, I used to be health and safety manager at JCB years ago, so
that's fantastic. I do have some. I'm very conscious that we've got such a great panel. We've got about 10 minutes left, and we've got some questions that I'd really like to go to. But I think before that, for those members of our audience, I think sometimes talk about apprenticeships and technical T-levels can sometimes become a bit overwhelming and confusing. So hopefully, Louis, if you'd be so kind, is just going to throw up a slide now, and it will detail some key points to take away, really. So as far as apprenticeship takeaways go, an apprentice will spend 80% of their time in the workplace. So that would account to 4 days of their 5-day working week, and 20% of that will count as new learning. Now that might be a college placement, a day at college, as I think Meryl referenced, or it might be that they're still in the workplace but they're doing some online learning or something of that order. The apprenticeship level ranges. Nihal's taken us through is from level 2, which is a GCSE equivalent, up to level 6 or 7, which is the equivalent to a university degree. And it can last anything from 1 year to 4 years. The assessment of that learner's progress will be based on evidence of knowledge, skills, and their behaviour on the workplace. So they're the key takeaways there. 5 key takeaways with regard to apprenticeships. And now, Lou, if you'd be so good as to just display the T-level slide. So we can see as our first 2 criteria there, it's a flip reverse almost of the apprenticeship model. So whereas the apprentice will spend 80% of their time in the workplace and 20% of their time perhaps in a more formal learning environment. T-level is the flip reverse of that. So 80% of the T-level learners' time will be spent in college or at school, and 20% will be spent on WEX, work experience. They'll gain a level 3 qualification, which is equivalent to an A-level. Again, it's a 2-year course, similar to A-levels, and the assessment will be based on evidence that's collected around that learner's progress in academic and technical skills. So it's a balance of both those two strands. So there we go, the 5 key takeaways for a T-level. Thanks, Louis. I think I'd really like to move on to a bit of a question and answer session. Please, if anybody's got any more questions, just fire them away into the chat. And Louise Hine, thank you. I think this one's coming your way, Meryl, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Louise
Yeah,
asks,
so
just to
sorry.
clarify, sorry if you can see it there, just in case anybody can't, just to clarify, 1 T-level is just the same as 3 A-levels for UCAS. Is that right, Meryl?
Yep, that's right. So they just do 1 T-level, and that is equivalent to your 3 A-levels.
Okay, awesome. And for everybody else's reference, I know people can get in a twist about this, but on the UCAS website, there's a really, really good UCAS points tariffs calculator that gives you the equivalents. Just Google it, and it's really, really useful, and you can see it right there in black and white. Another kind of question related to this, I guess, Meryl, if you wouldn't mind again, after you've finished your 2-year apprenticeship, how many UCAS points do you have to put together towards a degree?
For T-levels or
either or. I'll ask you about T-levels if that's okay.
So
does
the
it
UCAS
vary by course to course?
Yeah, it does vary
establishment to
by
establishment?
course. Yeah, so it'll be and depends on what universities. What I would say, T-levels are obviously very new for universities. So what a student possibly looks at this year could change for next year, because as we are getting to know more about T-levels, the requirements to get into university could slightly change. So it might just be a merit instead of a distinction grades, things like that. But it is, like you said, Andrew, to look at the tariff, because it does differ for every T-level. What I would say from our early years cohort that have just gone through 2 years, they have all got into university with their grades.
Thank you very much for that. And Nihal, if I might ask you, I remember from your earlier conversation with us, you talked about colleagues who were looking at master's degrees and doctorates. Yeah. How would that work for you as somebody who's gone through the programme? And is that something that you're looking at now to further your qualification level?
So at the moment, I've finished obviously my bachelor's as normal through the apprenticeship programme. What I am looking, we have actually got one of our apprentices from our cohort, Edward Bettridge, Chris, just for your information, if you're interested. One of the apprentices from our cohort has finished his level 6 and is starting all this as we speak, his level 7 in coding. So he wants to do his master's in engineering. So he's taken that forward straight away. I have discussed this with my manager. I do want to do an MBA at some point in the next couple of years, which I'll be more than likely doing part-time, and again just funded through work, but that's possible because I've been here for 4 years already.
Awesome, thank you. Just to follow up, Meryl, from Louise, she just said, can we uber super make it clear? Can we clarify 1 T-level is the same as 3 A-levels for UCAS?
Yes.
Okay, magic, thank you very much. Another on a related kind of strand, do students just take 1 T-level, or could they combine a couple of A-levels with a T-level, Meryl, or what are the pathways there?
No, so it would be 1 T-level. So, for example, T-level in engineering, and that would be the broad T-level that they cover. They would have 14 to 16 elements that would be the core components. So in the first year, they do 2 exams and they do an employer set project. And then in year 2, they do their occupational specialism. And I can just see another question on the chat. So no, if a student hadn't done a BTEC in engineering, they wouldn't be at any disadvantage. Our entry requirements for T-levels are grade 5s or working toward grade 5s. What I would say is if students dependent on which T-level. So if we talked about engineering and construction, heavily involved with maths and science, but they possibly got a 4 in English, we would still put them on a T-level. So we're not disadvantaging students. So it's really important that, you know, obviously students work really hard, but if they didn't quite get the 5s, it's not definitely no, they can't go on T-levels. NSCG as a college still offers BTECs as well. It's only in certain areas that we have switched off BTECs, so the only offer is a T-level anyway.
Okay. Nihal, do you have something that you'd like to share with us, or a remark you'd like to add?
Yes,
Please do so.
Just
Please do so, my
super
friend.
quickly. I just wanted to mention, I know we've spoken a lot about engineering in T-levels and degree apprenticeships. I don't want anyone who's on the call or any students to think it's only engineering that you can do at that level. We as a company offer a business management degree apprenticeship where you'll get to do marketing and sales and finance and commercials and stuff like that. And I know there's hundreds and hundreds of other different schemes. It's not, even at degree level, it doesn't have to just be engineering if that's not what you want to do. There are other options out there. So I'd say if there's anyone watching this who doesn't want to necessarily do engineering but is still quite a hands-on person, don't just discount a higher apprenticeship or a T-level, because there are other options out there.
And almost as if it was planned, Meryl, Ms. Rogers asks, are there any plans to increase the T-level courses to include areas like animal management or legal services at the Stafford and Newcastle sites at the moment?
Yeah, so legal services is coming on next year, so September 2024, along with a science T-level, but we won't offer animal management at either site. We don't have the facilities for that. This year, I'm sure you're aware, we offer T-level in health, T-level in early years, T-level in business, T-level in digital, T-level in engineering, T-level in construction, T-level in construction building services. So each year we are adding more on, and we will increase the occupational specialism route as well.
I'm starting to feel really quite sad, actually, because we're coming to the end of our hour, and I've thoroughly enjoyed the discussion. It's been really, really, really energizing. So what I need to do, first of all, is say to our audience, we will be running similar webinars. Our next one is only a very few short weeks in October, where we'll be having a specific bias towards science, technology, engineering and maths. That's STEM to those of us who work in education. You'll be getting an email from our admin team in the next few days before the end of the week, inviting you to book onto that webinar. So please look out for that. I would like to say to our audience, thank you very, very, very much for joining us. Please get in touch with us. Feel free to send through some supplementary questions if you have them. If anything occurs to you in the coming hours and days, we'll certainly get back to you, I promise you. But thank you very much for joining us. I hope you found it useful, informative. But most of all, I would like to say thank you very much to our wonderful panel who've given up an hour of their time at the end of the day. I'd like to say thank you to Rachel Roden, Waterplus, who sadly had to leave us. To Meryl Finney, Newcastle and Stafford Colleges Group, thank you so much for joining us. Chris Morris, fantastic to hear about all the great work you're doing to create that common ground between educationalists and people in the commercial sector who for many years, I think, spoke different languages. You're doing great work to bring those two groups together, as is Carrie Abbott at the Stoke and Staffordshire Careers Hub. But also to Nihal Dhillon as well. Thank you so much for joining us, Nihal. And given that our next webinar will be on STEM, I'll certainly be checking your availability for that one, my friend.
That's fine. Thank you.
Also, I need to mention my colleague Louis Meredith, who's made sure everything's run really smoothly this afternoon. Please get in touch with us if there's anything you'd like us to follow up on. Hopefully, we'll see you in a couple of very short weeks. But thank you to our audience, but most of all, thank you to our panel. I've really enjoyed the discussion. I wish you a very good evening. Thank you all very much. Cheerio. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
That was nice. I really enjoyed that. That was great. Oh, sorry. Hi, Meryl. Are you waiting? Are you waiting for me? Is there something you'd like to follow up on, or?
I'm just trying to answer this question, but it's easier
sorry.
just to speak it out. Is Sean still on?
Is Sean still on, Louis?
Sean.
It looks like
Has she gone? She's all right. She asked a question, and like see, quicker just bloody say it, isn't it? Sometimes.
unfortunately she's gone
Perfect.
off.
She gone. Someone's answered
there
it
we
for
go.
me anyway by the time I wrote it. Fab. Nice to meet you both.
That's the good thing
You
about
too.
having
Thanks,
everyone in
Meryl.
chat.
Bye.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
thanks.
See you later.
See you
Bye-bye.
later. Bye.